Devil Hunters Chainsaw Man Chapter 165, titled Everyday Scenery, has Denji making the most sense out of the entire group? Is Katana Man and Chainsaw Man going to become best friends? And why is no one really questioning Fami? All this and more, but before we begin, let's go ahead and discuss what happened in last week's chapter, where now that Denji is rescued, he gets woken up to getting his testicles kicked twice, and Fami challenges Denji, but Denji wanted to put his efforts towards finding Nayata, and they go back to his old apartment building, and Denji ends up questioning Asa why challenging him to a fight is going to end up rescuing him. And let's hold on to that thought, because Denji dives into that again in chapter 165. But when they can't seem to find Nayata, his stomach ends up growling, and Fami suggests they go to a sushi restaurant, which now leads us to chapter 165, where we pick things up not at a sushi restaurant. I know. We waited 2 weeks and we didn't even get to the sushi restaurant, but at a train station. We arrive at a train station where Denji spots a pseudo Chainsaw Man corpse. Haruka explains that a train station attendant will clean it up, but Denji insists that it isn't normal. And this is the beginning of what we're going to see throughout the chapter, where Denji just seems to be making the most sense. Sure, the world of Chainsaw Man, where just devils so happen to live harmonically or not harmonically with human beings, is like an everyday thing, and the majority of deaths in this universe revolve around devil-related incidents. But no, Denji is spotting a pseudo Chainsaw Man on the floor saying this is not normal. And what's even more frightening is how Asamitaka says it's just expected at this point, which is even more jarring considering how we've seen Asa get timid and very shy at just the thought of devils from the beginning of part 2 to where we are now. And it's such a very subtle thing, but to see Asa not even being fazed at something like this has just shown how much he's experienced so far. But while waiting for the train, Fami starts listing off sushi restaurants they can go to, but either the best places are burned to the ground or the chefs are dead, so now they have to settle with going to a budget sushi restaurant. Nobana, being as awkward as always, just says the most random thing, saying, well, I never tried the sushi there, but I did have some of their tea. But more importantly, this is where Denji ends up looking at seemingly a mother and her child injured, and behind them is all these broken buildings, which prompts Denji to end up asking Asa, remind me, why are you out to fight me again? Only for Asa to say the same generic answer from last chapter, because if I fight you and win, you'll be saved. And Denji says, are you being brainwashed by that weird cult? Which doesn't help Asa's case when she ends up asking Fami, the leader of the cult, to explain herself. Fami then goes on to explain that if they break his contract with Pochita, they can beat the devil and give him a new heart so he can live on as a human with a normal life. Now again, Denji, making the most sense in this chapter, proceeds to ask Fami, how do you know that? And this is now where we see this panel, Fami doing her signature head tilt, not saying anything. And then when Asa tries to defend Fami a little bit, saying sure, she's done some bad things, but she's still ultimately trying to help Denji, right, Fami? Only for the entire group, and I actually love this in the chapter where the entire group looks at Fami, and Fami doesn't say a single word. Yes, why aren't we questioning how crazy and delusional Fami is? And I think it's come at the ripe opportunity for us to be reminded, and quite frankly, the group to be reminded, wait, why are we listening to Fami once again when we've seen what she's done, bringing the falling devil and having earth-shattering consequences as a result of that? But more importantly, no one knows the contract between Denji and Pochita. So how does she know? Sure, it's very easy to say that she's a horseman, and I think I would actually like to know if there's an answer beyond that. And maybe it can even be a simple explanation as Nayata explaining it to Fami in some off panel, but I feel like Nayata definitely loves Denji, and we know that she loves Denji, so I don't think she would just reveal it to her sister outright just because they're siblings. And the other problem this presents is that she's kind of right, but she's kind of wrong about the contract Denji has with Pochita. The contract they originally formed is that Pochita will give Denji his heart in exchange to live an ordinary life. Sure, but to also show him what his dreams are. And when we refer back to what, like chapter 150, when Pochita ended up asking Denji, what is it that you want to do? We achieved your dreams. There has to be something new beyond this, right? For only Denji to say, well, my dream is to be Chainsaw Man. So this is very vital, important information that Fami doesn't know, the updated terms of agreement that Denji has made with Pochita. But what's also sad when Asa's trying to rationalize and make sense of all of this, she has shown a lot of growth, but she's still a bit stubborn in her ways, and she's not really understanding Denji's perspective. And I guess it doesn't really help that Denji makes this metaphor of eating toilet paper filled with feces, but that part is also a bit disturbing as well, because that was the only way he can get some source of nutrition, one that's really depressing, one that's really sad. We know that Denji has lived a horrible life before, but him just even reinforcing that to us again just really shows, damn, even being Chainsaw Man, despite all the pitfalls of being with Chainsaw Man, he still ended up having a better life of what he used to have as an ordinary kid, right? So him living an ordinary life is never going to happen, to be quite frankly. And I even like the panel where Denji says, yeah, I can never go back to the way things used to be, and you just see buildings set aflame, on fire, just chaos in the background. And I saw how someone has mentioned on Twitter that Asa saying, Denji, I'm gonna save you no matter what, that's pretty much the same thing that she said to Yuko, and we know what ended up happening to Yuko. So will lightning strike twice? Who knows? But now this is where we get Katana Man, and Katana Man, I feel like he's becoming the definition of toxic masculinity, which probably sounds pretty obvious, but you know, when you go to him just calling out Asa the B word in last week's chapter, to him telling Denji and telling the whole group, quite frankly, hey, you know what Denji needs right now? He just needs to get laid, and we're going to take him to the Soaplands. Essentially, it's a brothel. And I love how Katana Man, much like Yoru, definitely wanted to fight Chainsaw Man, but they aren't going to be satisfied until they fight him at his utmost strongest, or I guess mentally sane state. But it seems like Katana Man is now becoming a bro, and we know how much of a pervert Denji is. So to see Katana Man suggest this, I now wonder if this is going to be the beginning of Katana Man and Denji looking at each other saying, hey, we actually have things more in common. So maybe there might be something brewing here of a bromance between these two. But whether we go to the Soaplands or not next week, I am a bit curious to know how is Asa going to take all this. We didn't go to the sushi restaurant, which was supposed to happen in this chapter. Are we going to go to the Soaplands next week? Maybe, maybe not. But then there's a part of me too that's thinking, oh wait, I feel like if now more than ever, if there's a chance to introduce Kobeni back into the story. If you guys remember what happened in part 1, Kobeni said, I'm basically working as a devil hunter to help allow my siblings to go to college or something like that. And it was either become a devil hunter or work in a brothel. And what a weird and interesting way to introduce Kobeni's relative Nobana into this. And now we see Katana Man, Denji, and the rest of the group go to a brothel. And this is where we end up seeing Kobeni. I feel like this would knock out two birds with one stone, where we see the reintroduction of her character, and who knows, now she might travel along with this ragtag group, and Fujimoto will finally give what so many people have been clamoring for in part 2 so far, the return of Kobeni, one of our beloved characters. And look, if this is how Kobeni is going to be reintroduced into the story, I'm okay with it. If anything, now give us the return of Kishibe, and then wherever Reze is, or I would even like the twist too of, hey, give us the reborn again Blood Devil maybe here. But I do like how chapter 165 is establishing Denji to be the most sane person in this world. Asa has the best intentions, but ultimately isn't really trying to understand what Denji's implying. And I'm glad that someone is pointing out Fami's plan to save Chainsaw Man. So let's go ahead and discuss more of this in the live discussion, which you guys can go ahead and click right here. Take care.